The Magic Faraway Tree by Enid Blyton. Chapter 5. Saucepan Makes a Muddle. Joe, Silky and Moonface were very pleased that Joe was the right way up again. "It feels funny," said Joe. "I feel quite giddy the right way up after standing upside down for so long." "Oh, thank you, Witch. How much is the spell?"
"1 piece of gold," said the witch.
Moonface put his hand into his money bag. He brought out a piece of gold. The witch threw it into the fire, and at once bright golden smoke came out. She took out her knitting needles and began to knit the yellow smoke into socks that she was making.
"I wanted a yellow pattern," she said, pleased. "Your piece of gold came just at the right time."
"Oh, gosh, this is a very magic land, isn't it?" said Joe, as the three of them walked out of the extraordinary shop. "Fancy knitting socks out of smoke. Oh, don't let's go home yet, Moonface. I want to see a few more things." "Oh, all right," said Moonface, who wanted to explore a little bit too. "Come on, hey, look at that gnome who's making a spell to make cats sing. Somebody's brought a cat to him. I wonder if the spell will really work." The witch's assistant had brought along a big black cat. He handed the gnome 2 silver pieces of money. The gnome took the cat on his knee. He opened its mouth and looked down it. Then he took a silver whistle and blew a tune softly down the cat's pink throat. The cat swallowed once, twice, and then jumped off the gnome's knee.
"Will it sing now?" asked the witch's assistant. "I won't be able to go back to my witch unless it does." "Oh, it will never sing whenever you do anything other than stroke it. It will sing, though, whenever you do," said the gnome, turning to another customer.
The witch's assistant went off with the cat following behind. Joe took hold of Moonface's arm and whispered to him, "I'm going to stroke the cat. I do want to hear if it will really sing." Moonface and Silky wanted to as well, and they giggled to see Joe running softly after the big black cat. He caught up with it and gently stroked it. Well, then, oh, what a peculiar thing. The cat stopped, lifted up its head, and sang in a very deep man's voice. "Oh, once my whiskers grew so long, I had to have a shave. The barber said it's not the way for whiskers to behave. If you're not careful, my dear cat, they'll grow into a beard, and then a billy goat you'll be, or something very weird. Oh, once my tail became so long, it hadn't got a wag," the baker said. But whatever the baker said about the cat's short tail, nobody ever knew. The witch's assistant turned round in surprise when he heard the cat singing, because he knew that he hadn't stroked it. He saw Joe and the others grinning away nearby, and he was suddenly very angry. "Oh, how dare you use up my cat singing!" he cried. "You wait till I tell the witch, she'll be after you. You won't sing. Oh, you won't sing if she catches you. Quick, run," said Moonface. "If he does fetch the witch, we'll get into trouble." So they ran away fast and were soon out of sight of the cat and the assistant. Oh, they sank down under a tree and started to laugh. "Oh dear, that cat did sound very funny. Oh, what a funny song to sing," said Joe, wiping his eyes. "And what a lovely deep voice it had. Do you think its whiskers really did grow very long?" Just then, the three of them heard a loud noise coming along. Clankety-clank, rattle, bang, crash. "The Saucepan Man!" they all cried. "He's coming up here too!" And sure enough, it was old Saucepan, grinning all over his face. He had so many kettles and saucepans on that day that nothing could be seen of him except for his face and his feet. "Hello, hello," he said. "I guess you were up here. Have you been having fun?" "Yes," said Joe. "I'm all right again. Look, it's so nice to walk the proper way again. Oh, and Saucepan, we've just heard a cat sing." Saucepan actually heard what Joe said, but he couldn't believe what he'd heard and that he'd heard correctly. So he put his hand behind his ear and said, "What did you just say? I thought you said you'd heard a cat sing, but I heard wrong, I know." "No, you heard right," said Moonface. "We did hear a cat sing." "Let's go and explore a bit more," said Joe. So they got up and went off. A witch was selling a spell to make ordinary broomsticks fly through the air. The four of them watched in amazement as they saw her rubbing a pink ointment onto a broom handle belonging to an elf.
"Now, get on it and say, 'Whiz away,' and you can fly home," said the witch.
The elf sat astride the broomstick, a smile on her pretty face. "Whiz away," she said, and off whizzed the broomstick up through the air, and the elf clung tightly to it. "Oh, I'd like to buy that spell," said Joe. "I wonder how much it is." The witch heard him.
"Oh, 3 silver pieces," she said.
Joe hadn't even got one, but Moonface had. He took them out of his money bag and gave them to the witch.
"Where's your broomstick?"
the witch asked. "Oh, we haven't got one with us," said Joe. But can't you give us the ointment instead, please?"
"Well, I'll give you just a little," said the witch.
She took a tiny pink jar and put a dab of the pink ointment onto it, and then inside it. She took it over to Joe. Joe took it and put it into his pocket. Now maybe his mother's broomstick would learn to fly when he got home. At the next stall, a goblin was selling a spell to make things big. The spell was in big cans and looked just like paint. "Just think what a useful spell this is," yelled the goblin to the passers-by. "Have you got any visitors coming to dinner and only a small cake to offer them? A dab of this spell and the cake swells to twice its size. Have you got a suit you've grown out of? A dab of this spell and it will grow to the right size. Marvellous, wonderful, amazing, astonishing. Buy while you've got the chance." Saucepan heard all that the goblin said as he was shouting at the top of his voice. He began to look in all of his kettles and saucepans. "What do you want?" asked Joe. "Oh, well, I want my money," said the saucepan man. "I always keep it in one of my kettles or saucepans, but I never remember which one. I simply must buy that spell. Think how useful it would be to me. Sometimes when I go around selling my goods, a customer will say to me, 'Oh, haven't you got a big enough kettle?' But now I shall be able to make my kettles just as big as I like. We can dab the pop cakes with the spell too and make them twice as big." He found his money at last and paid it to the goblin, who handed him a can of the spell. Saucepan was very pleased. He longed to try it out on something. He took the brush and dabbed a daisy nearby. Well, the daisy at once grew to twice the size. Then Saucepan dabbed a bumblebee, and that grew enormous. It buzzed around Moonface, and he waved it away. "Saucepan, don't do any more bees," he begged. "I expect their stings are twice as big too. Look, let's go to that store over there and buy some treats. It would be fun to make them twice as big." They hurried to the shop, but on the way a dreadful thing happened. Very dreadful indeed. Saucepan fell over one of his kettles and upset the can which had the spell in it. It splashed up and drops of it fell onto Moonface, Silky and Joe and the old saucepan man too, and in a moment they all shot up to twice their size. Silky grew to 3 times her size because more drops fell on her. They stared at one another. How small the land of spells suddenly seemed. How little the witches and the goblins looked. How tiny the shops were. "Oh, Saucepan, you really are careless," cried Moonface angrily. "Look what you've done to us. Now what are we going to do?" Silky clutched hold of Moonface's arm. "Moonface," she said. "Oh, Moonface, do you think we're
too big to go down through the hole in the cloud.
Moonface turned pale. Oh, we'd better go and see, he said. Come on, everybody. Frightened and silent, all four of them hurried to where the hole led down to the faraway tree. How little it seemed to the four big people now. Moonface tried to get down. He tried and tried and tried. He stuck. He couldn't slip down at all. It's no use, he said. We're too big to go down. He pulled himself out. Whatever shall we do? And that is the end of that chapter. And so we must leave them now in the land of spells. Oh dear, what do you think they're going to do now? What would you do if the spell had fallen on you and you were in the land of spells? What do you think they should do? See if you can come up with a good plan, and let's see if they have the same idea in tomorrow's chapter. Bye-bye.